This podcast is hosted by Sheza Barbour, co-founder of Good Tree Institute, and joined by licensed therapist Archie Aquino and our resident scholar and founder, Dr. Nadia Qatranji.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings be upon you. We'd like to welcome you to Good Tree Institute's podcast, Timeless Conversations. As we said, in this season, we will be covering Surah Maryam. So without further delay, let's go ahead and get started into the story and the surah. Nadia, do you want to take us away?
Yes.
Kick us off here.
Absolutely. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah. So we are starting Surah Maryam officially this episode, inshallah. So let's start with the beginning, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, He starts with Kaf, Ha, Ya, Ayn, Sad. And I apologize, I'm not doing a fully proper reading just for the practicality of it. But this is one of the openings of the surahs that is actually very unique to Surah Maryam. It has the more letters, and it has more of the, like, you really need to practice a breath. You need to practice to hold your breath to be able to say it fully. And this is one of the things that I really noticed also about reading the Quran. I mean, just like a very quick thing about it. You know how nowadays we talk a lot about how important it is to be with physically with your body, and to be with your breath, and to be aligned with that, and to be present to how you're breathing, and how that brings a lot of presence to yourself. And I notice actually properly reading Quran does add that aspect. You really need to learn to have a deeper ability to hold your breath and to say it. Like, I'm just going to read it to you the proper way so you could see what I mean. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Kaf ha ya ayn sad. So you say all of this with holding your breath. And as I'm learning, when you learn about being present and meditating and doing a muraqabah and all of that, and doing dhikr, one of the main things is to be aligned and present with noticing how you're breathing. And this kind of like helps you being in the moment. So I'm just like, subhanAllah, even reading Quran the proper way adds to that. I don't know if you guys want to say anything about that, since we kind of like mentioned it. I just found it very fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I feel like the sounds is very soothing.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly this combination of letters, like whenever I hear that, I know it's Surah Maryam. I don't necessarily, just speaking for myself, remember all the other surahs where we have letters, besides Surah Al-Baqarah, but the other ones, but this one's particularly, maybe because it's the length or the combination, there's something soothing about it and very calming. Like, it gets me in the moment. And I always remember this one, particularly compared to other surahs.
Yeah, it's a very good example of what grounding is, and
right.
And it because it has that intro, like you said, like instantly what this is. You instantly get triggered to be in a certain frame of mind.
True. Yep, absolutely. It's kind of like, yeah, it's like, get ready. Okay, there's something profound that's coming up. Just get yourself ready, and you don't have to know the meaning here, because we don't know, Allahu A'lam, right? But just get yourself into it. So, and as you said, like, experience that sound and all of that, and so you can be present to it to see what's next. And then he says, ذكر رحمة ربك عبده زكريا. Dhikru rahmati. Dhikr is the mention, right? So he's going to say, I'm mentioning, like, and here, this is all, that this ayah 2 is all a noun. It's just like it's a nominative sentence. There's no verb in here. It's more of like the mention of the mercy, love, and compassion of your caretaker. Dhikru rahmati rabbika. So he's not telling him, I'm going to mention to you the mercy of your caretaker. It's kind of like, again, he took it out of time. Then the nice thing about nominative sentence, it's not bound to time. It's timeless. The mention of the mercy, it's as if this is always there. It's always been there. And the mention of it is just like eternal. That rahmah that was there all the time, rahmah of your caretaker, rahmati rabbika. And then he talks specifically, okay, now I'm going to mention that rahmah of your caretaker. Remember, the caretaker, the one, I always love to remind ourselves what it means to care for with constant dedication, nourish and restore. That's what a Rabb is. That's who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is for us. He said that rahmah to his abid. So I'm going to mention a specific example of that rahmah of our Rabb. He says, I'm going to mention a specific one to his abid, Zakaria. We always like to use the word abid for it just because the root word abada denotes softness and submission. It's more of an aspect of what it is to adore, obey, and serve. And I always like to keep this word because when it's translated, a lot of the times we say, well, his abid, meaning his servant, meaning his slave. It doesn't really capture the full aspect. The aspect of ubudiyya, the aspect of being abid, is really an aspect of being in a total surrender to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which requires trust, requires love, requires... Yeah,
it's voluntary. It's not enslavement.
Beautiful.
It's a voluntary submission.
Beautiful. And that's why, by the way, if you look in the Arabic, in the dictionaries, when they talk about this word, they say that there are two types to this word. There's one type, which is basically abid as a verb, and it has the noun abid, abada as a verb, and it has the noun abid. And this is about you submitting to the higher power, to the divine power, because you voluntarily do that. Whereas the other meaning that is used, generally speaking, when human beings enslave each other, that's abid without a verb, because nobody wants to become abid to somebody else. So when we talk about slavery and slave, it's the second one that does not have a verb. They said this one would not have a verb because nobody does that. People enslave others, but nobody wants to be to that in that status and condition. That's why always dealing with this word is a very delicate one, because people have a lot of baggage when they hear this word, and it just like brings a lot of traumatic understanding of it, and nobody likes that. I mean, including myself, it was always something that I just like, I don't want to. But when you look at the real meaning of it, it's just like very profound.
Yeah, that is profound, because when, as a convert, like, we rely on translation because we don't know the deeper meaning of Arabic, and so it points out the importance of be careful of how it's, which translation you're reading, because if someone reads, okay, you're a slave to God, they can have all that negative connotation about oppression and being enslaved, and it's not that meaning.
Exactly. And some people like to say, no, I am actually a slave to God. But even if you want to say that, you have to understand what that means. You have to understand what the aspect of ubudiyya, or the aspect of being abid, is like, again, the bottom meaning of it is what you surrender to. And as human beings, we always surrender to something. We would like to think that we surrender to our objective thinking. We would like to think that we're always very objective and very intellectual, and really our intellect is what's governing us. But we know that that's not the truth. We know it's our, either our desires and our likes, or fitting in, or being, acclimating with the culture that's around us, and kind of like going with the flow of the culture is really a lot of the times what dominates us. And that's,
or your past and your history and your traumas and your baggage.
Totally. That's what governs us. So Allah's invitation, when he says, be abid to me, his invitation is actually, rather than surrendering to all the above, you can choose to actually free yourself from that and surrender to the divine being, to surrender to the source of all of this. And this way you can be free. You gotta hang yourself somewhere. You gotta connect yourself. That thought of, oh, I'm just like untethered to anything, isn't like, that's not gonna
It's
be.
not true.
It's not true. You're gonna have to be, when you're untethered, that means you're tethered to the divine being. That's the true meaning of it. That's the freedom. That's the
And
true.
what about these people who are, I'm not tethered to anything, but I'm tethered to nature, and I'm tethered to the universe, and I'm willing to submit to those things, but but that's not God.
That's right. What is that if it's not a manifestation? The most pure manifestation of God is the universe and nature. That's why we love being there, right? We love being in nature. We love being in, and just like really aligning with what's out there, because it's a pure manifestation of the divine. And we are willing to do that. Again, it's all out of the baggage that we've carried with ourselves, within ourselves, from how people talked about God, and how people um, abused the word of the divine, and abused God, and abused how it's manifested through religions to control people. So for us to bypass all of that, what we did is we basically try to say, okay, it's the universe, it's nature, it's that energy that's out there. What's that if it's not the divine? We're just not willing to give it the true meaning of it. When you are with these pure forms, you feel free.
Mm-hmm. And is it like, God needs you to pronounce through your intention and through your actual words that, like, you have to worship God or Allah Himself for vanity's sake, like, because He needs the recognition, He needs the credit. Like, is that
Well,
why we
that's
have to?
humanizing, right? That's our, again, subhanAllah, even when you think of the word of God, again, we really bring the understanding of God from either, again, how people in the Greek mythology, for instance, understood it. Somehow it still seeps into our understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we always highlight the magnificent manifestations, and we think that they're coming from control, and they're coming from, as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to control and wants to have the power. It's not that. That's the nature of the divine, is that He is the source of all manifestations in its most pure form. But we humanize. We try to give Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala these attributes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has. We try to give them kind of like a human nature. We think that His power is like our power. It is because we want to control. Allah's power is not because He wants to control. He's the source of power. He's not like, when He is the one to be adored and the one to be sought, is because He is the source, not because He wants to control us. He is actually the source of love, the source of peace, the source of power.
But does His power come from the worshipers? Because that's one aspect. People believe that, like, gods without worship don't exist anymore.
Yeah, subhanAllah. Yeah, that's again not the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us. He actually says, if you guys, all of you, were like the most denying person, all of you were like all denying the existence of God, that has no impact on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala whatsoever. Nothing would change about Allah. He is no need, right? That's what we say. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Samad. He is the one who everyone relies on, but He does not need anyone. He doesn't rely on anyone. So that's, and again, the more you hear it from Him, and He even says, you all can gather all together and ask whatever you want, and I give you everything that you want. Nothing would decrease from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has. He says it's exactly like as if somebody dipped a pin or a needle in the ocean and brought it out. What would the ocean decrease? It's literally insignificant to even mention. So that's the whole aspect of, again, when you try to understand Allah from people, from philosophies, and not directly from Him, that's just not fair. You know how a lot of times people say, and we have certain stereotypes about other people or about some person, and you hear about them from some other ones, and you form a view and a perspective. And when you meet that person and you notice, oh my God, like all of what they said about you is really not true. And when you learn about the person firsthand, you see something totally different. And that's Allah's invitation to us. It's like, why don't you read what I told you about me? Why don't you experience what I told you about me? Stop taking from other people.
It just reminds me of all the skeptics, the atheists, the people who are bitter about God, because they're like, he's so vain and he's bipolar and he's sadistic. He makes all these bad things happen in the world, and he wants us to be on our knees and he wants us to worship him, and they just view this, like you said, this very oppressive, controlling version of what God is. And it's very humanizing. Like they're putting all the negative characteristics of humanity onto
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. That's all what you're doing. And yeah, go ahead.
Part of it, though, as I'm listening to you all, is it almost feels like people are also just projecting their own fears and their own insecurities and everything that's bubbling inside onto God and saying he is all these negative things because it's what their own experience in their life of what they're going through, or just their fears. It's just like they're not willing to think of anything else and be open and kind of break your heart open and be vulnerable and see that's not.
Is that what they mean by you're supposed to be God fearing? Because that always bothered me too.
Well, I mean, let's yeah. Well, now we're taking us another big conversation. We can definitely address that later. But what I want to say though, so we get into it. What I want to say, I want to acknowledge the fact of how much, again, as human beings, we have an abusive side and controlling side, and we abuse everything. And the religion and the divine, we're not free from that. People abused God and abused the image of God and abused religion. And we have to acknowledge that. And we have to acknowledge the fact that we have been hurt from that. And we had a lot of trauma from that, whether personal or just culture, growing up into just a culture that has so much baggage is something to be addressed and something to be acknowledged. But my invitation is, and our invitation, why we're doing this, is to give people an opportunity to see the truth as it is and to stop carrying that baggage. Why don't you put your baggage on the table and start addressing it and start reading and start looking and start investigating? Because we're the ones who are hurt most when we do not connect to the true reality. And knowing the reality is very freeing. Being actually awake and seeing what truth is very freeing and very beautiful. So it requires courage to first acknowledge that and acknowledge that, yeah, maybe, you know what, I've been always just following these thoughts because that's what everybody around me is saying, and that's what it seems to be free. You think you're just free, but are you? I really do love the people and admire the people who are willing to put down at that table and just like go into it, do your own reading, do your own research, use your intellect, use your mind, and use your curiosity, and just like get into these things and open it up. And this surah is a beautiful example to show Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pouring out his rahmah, showing you so many manifestations, which is of course in every surah, but there's more of love in this one. It's just so beautiful to show. He's demonstrating what a Rabb looks like, what the rahmah, the mercy of a Rabb looks like, what the love of a Rabb looks like in the surah through all of these prophets and all of these examples.
So is this surah kind of addressing the way people don't trust in Allah? They don't trust that he's the Rabb, who's very kind and benevolent and compassionate.
It can address that. Yeah, it can show you. He's giving us a method. He's just like, okay, I know you don't trust, and I know you don't do that, but I'm going to show you examples. Prophets are models for us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through them, He models what an interaction between a Rabb and Abid look like. Like He literally named them this way. Look what He said. Rahmati Rabbika, the mercy, the love and compassion of your caretaker, to his Abid Zakaria. So one of the He's literally showing us what does that interaction look like between a Rabb, the divine, the source of everything, the source of rahmah, the source of love, the source of peace, the source of power. What does that interaction between that source and us, if we choose to surrender, what does that look like? This is not specific to Zakaria, and it's not specific to Yahya, and it's not specific to Maryam. It's not specific to them. This is an example of what we can encounter if we went off of this model. So He's teaching us, really. He's telling us, okay, I know you got whatever you got, but let me show you. Here's another alternative. Here's an opportunity to see something different if you want to.
See, I like that. I like that it's like an invitation, and it's educational, but it's not like do this or else. You know,
that's again a version that people kind of like. How can I say this? They extracted a humanized version to just again because it's easier to control people. Always, that's the problem that has happened, and if it's a very like, yeah, there are times where you use these kinds of expressions, but that's not the most the common one, or that's not the main approach. That's the problem. You, as human beings, that's not how we operate. You don't go right away into the do or else. It doesn't operate. We don't operate this way, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not teach us this way. He mentions rahmah more than He mentions anything else in His book. We just overlook them because we want to reach the results. We would just want to produce results, and we want to have order, and we forget about the human being. We are very complex creatures. We have a lot of aspects to us that need to be addressed. We have an intellectual aspect, we have an emotional aspect, we have a spirit. So for us to produce and to be aligned in certain ways, we need to address all of these, which was the Quran does, which was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does through His creation and through the signs of this book and through the nature, to have us be aligned. It's a process that we need to go through. It's not so, you can't just make things happen. You have to go through this process and allow yourself to be in it.
Yeah. I think this is it's a great segue into the continuation of the story, and how I'm excited to see what that looks like.
Yeah.
And like the example of like
Yep.
what Zakaria goes through and what Maryam goes through, to see how can I be like that? How can I have that relationship?
Yeah, that's beautiful. Exactly. So now we're, inshallah, with the story of, in Surah Maryam, we have the story of Zakaria and Yahya alayhi salam, and then we have Maryam and Isa alayhi salam, and then Ibrahim alayhi salam with his father. And so we're going to have these the manifestations of each of these surahs, and then inshallah what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to learn from all of these stories. We have the second half of the surah aligned with that. But let's delve into Zakaria alayhi salam, with where he's coming from. And there is a background to this, which inshallah we can delve into later on when we talk about Maryam in terms of his relationship with her. But with Zakaria, what's happening, you know what, let's just read the Quran, and then inshallah I'll get into the details of it, because the way it's presented is profound. And if you know it, that's great, just listen to it newly. And if you don't, you're up for a treat. It's just a beautiful, one of the most, I don't want to say poetic, but it's just like the language of it, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala portrays it is profound, is like really amazing. So let's see what he says. So he says, the ayah that we just said, ذِكْرُ رَحْمَةِ رَبِّكَ عَبْدَهُ زَكَرِيَّا, the mention of the mercy, love, and compassion of your caretaker to his abd, Zakaria. And then he says, إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ نِدَاءً خَفِيًّا, when he called his caretaker, a call that is hidden in secret. He called him in a very, very low voice. قال, he said, ربي إني وهن العظم مني. He said, oh my caretaker, إني, surely I, وهن العظم مني. Wahana is weakened, al-azm, the bones, and minni, from me. So the bones have weakened of me, or from me. واشتعل الرأس شيبة, and ishta'ala is ignited, al-ra's is the head, and shayba with gray hair, and the head has ignited with gray hair. So he said, oh my caretaker, the bones have weakened of me, and the head has ignited with gray hair. وَلَمْ أَكُنْ, and I was not, بِدُعَائِكَ, due to or because of, I've been calling you, Ya Rabbi, oh my caretaker, shaqiya, miserable. So because I've been calling you, I have been doing that all my time, I am not miserable. I haven't been miserable due to that. Do you want to say anything about this?
I mean, it's just so, like you said, it is poetic because just the way he describes what he's going through
Mm-hmm.
in a very intimate, I mean, imagining like a secluded, when you're in your just corner of your room or something.
Nobody can
And
hear
you
you.
have things, yeah, and you have things to say, but you don't want to say it out loud, like, but he's being so poetic about it. He could have just said, "Hey, God, I'm really old here.
Right?
I'm feeling really old," but he says it in such a descriptive way that about
Yeah.
his bones and about his gray hair, like lighting up his
Yeah.
head, and um,
Yeah.
it's very personal. It's
It
very intimate.
it adds it triggers your emotions.
Yes.
See, that's the thing, is if he just wanted to give you information, he would tell you, okay, he's old. He's giving you some data to your head. But if he wants to add another dimension and open up your emotions and your ability to really like engage in a way that's more powerful, he adds that dimension. And yeah, you're hearing, if you don't understand Arabic, you get the translation, and even the translation is very powerful. But the way the words are put, like there is an image that gets created in front of you, right? You could just like, oh my God, I feel that. I feel him.
I think you only feel it when you get older, though.
That's true.
People
But
are really empathizing with
right,
the pain in the bones.
that speaks for us. But but even, I mean, don't you could see you can start seeing, like you can see if you know a person who is at that age, you could just like get into that connection. It's like now you're really settling with all of these ayahs. You're getting into them. Yeah.
And just going through this right now, right, what also hit me was the last part of the ayah 4, when he says, and I was calling,
I
and
wasn't
like
miserable
saying,
because I calling you.
yes, I wasn't miserable because I've been calling you, right? And it just, right now, it was just hitting me how my grandmothers came up for me, like, and both my grandmothers are very, very strong role models for me. Like, I think about them all the time. Allah yarhamon. But, and what I think about is how sometimes you come to, you see older people. I mean, I know we're getting old here, but like older people, and you just see their level of calmness, and they have that level of calmness. Like you can have two types of people: the calm old people that are very happy and content with the way life has gone, and they're constantly in a state of like gratefulness and gratitude. And then you have the cynical old people who
Bitter,
are just
bitter.
constantly that are bitter and
Yeah.
just mad and just not happy about how life treated them and what happened and what they
Yeah.
did and what others did to them and whatnot.
So true.
And this brought for me how I'm always hoping and praying that I become more like that, like kind of the image of my grandmothers,
Sahih.
which have that sense of gratitude and just peace and contentment
Yeah.
with the way things have gone. And
Yeah.
I feel like that is all from their relationship that they've had with God. Like they've had that strong relationship.
Yeah.
And in that word choice, though, it says, I haven't been miserable because I called on you. Does that imply that if I didn't call on you, I'd probably be miserable?
Well, I mean, that's up to the testimony that people have. You know, to me, I know that, alhamdulillah, you know, seeing that track record of being able to make dua early enough and seeing how that always helps you, or has been helping to get out of the funk or any problem or any issues that we've been having, has shown actually is a testimony of this ayah, and this, by the same token, seeing that every single human being, whether we know it or we don't know it, there's a lot that's going on in people's lives. And when you don't have that anchor, and we don't have that tool, we don't have that capacity to make dua, that ability to ask, to reach, to say, Ya Rabbi, I need help. I know there are times where it was so devastating for me that I felt I'm just breaking under the situation that I was in. And I was literally feeling there is no human being that can help me. And I was on my knees. I was just like making sujood and asking and asking and asking, knowing that this is the only door that I could reach. And then seeing how he eased me and my family in the situation so smoothly throughout the years. And it just like it just gave me so much understanding that this is the most powerful, potent tool that we can have. And seeing how other people, when you go through this and you don't have it, it's everybody has issues. And if you're going through that difficulty and you don't have that door that you can knock at, you are unaware of this powerful tool. You're unaware that you have a Rabb who is waiting for you to just connect with him so he can support you. It's just so sad, because you know what happens? You get through it and you end, and things get eased because he's going to take care of you, even if you don't call him. He is going to be your Rabb. But you didn't connect the dots. You didn't see that he was there for you. And you know what happens? You go back and look at all of what happened as a traumatic event, and you see it as something that makes you bitter, rather than feeling and seeing the beautiful aspect of the beautiful aspect that you got out of it. It's a way for me to actually see the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and get through it and be content that, Ya Rabbi, alhamdulillah, I got stronger out of this tribulation and I connected with you, versus going through a tribulation and not even seeing that he's the one who has been my Rabb, who has been taking care of me, because he'll take care of you even if you don't call him. So do you guys see that? Like it's because life is rough, and if you don't have support in life, some people say, yeah, well, I'm positive, I'm this, I'm that, I can just like have that positive attitude. That's true, you can have that, but where's that coming from? You know what I'm saying? You can actually have that powerful energy, but you're just not giving it the name. You're not attributing to who gave you that. You're not seeing it. And that's why Allah is our Rabb. And he is not, even if you don't call him, he's going to take care of you.
So he's just acknowledging that he was taken care of all these years.
Exactly. And then you build that connection. So maybe that brings a powerful question that some people might ask, like, then why do we have to call him then? If he's taking care of me, why do I need to even call him?
Yeah.
If he will take care of me, what's the point?
Maybe it's about that trust, that lack of trust.
Yeah.
Well, and it's for you, right?
Exactly.
It's it's not for him, it's you.
Yeah, it's bringing it to light. That one who is taking care of you, seeing your caretaker is for you. He is your caretaker by default. He's taking care of everything by default. He's not waiting for you to call him to take care of you. He's going to take care of you. But you seeing the connection brings to light that relationship and brings to light who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is for you. And he wakes us up. Like we are awake of who he is for us. And we see him through him answering our dua. We see that relationship. We see how he is our Rabb. That brings tranquility to our own hearts. Just understanding the truth as it is brings that freedom to ourselves, brings that love and that trust and that connection that we need. Just acknowledging the fact that it's there is what we need.
Right. And I think it's important to remember that, God might not give you exactly what you want, but he will give you what you need at the time that you need it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. And see, I mean, this is beautiful. Why don't you hold on to this? Because we're going to see it in the story. Let's continue. So notice, and I want you guys to kind of start noticing how Zakaria alayhi salam is making dua, because we're going to learn from him how to make dua. So notice so far, what did we notice out of the etiquettes of his dua so far?
Well, he came from a very vulnerable place.
Beautiful.
He, in that way, like he's describing himself, what Allah already knows. He's describing his position of vulnerability.
I love that. Yeah, definitely being vulnerable with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He wants us to show that. And there's a level of intimacy, right? Do you notice that there's a level of you're broken, you're vulnerable, and there's intimacy, nida'an khafiyya. Like it's just between you and me, Ya Allah. And you could see that there is actually a relationship that was built. Right. There's a track record. So if you don't have that, you definitely want to start creating that. So we have these three things, right? We have the vulnerability, we have that intimacy, we have that track record.
Assalamu alaikum. We have decided to split up this episode, Dua Done Right, into 2 episodes. So follow us along as we continue on this conversation in part 2 of Dua Done Right.
If you like listening to our conversation about the Quran, imagine how much more you would get out of participating in a live conversation about the Quran with Dr. Nadia and a room full of people engaging with the Quran. Join us at our next in-person Seeds of Wisdom retreat, online with our weekly Quran and Me sessions, or for the youth at one of our Camp Z retreats.